Hi, I'm Adam from the MiMU team, and in this video I'm going to give you an introduction to using Glover with the MiMU Gloves. It's not going to be an incredibly in-depth video where we go over every feature that Glover has to offer, but rather we're just going to take the quick start route, getting you from no knowledge to just being able to dive in and make some music with your gloves. So let's start from the beginning. What is Glover? So Glover is a piece of software that lets you connect your gestures to third-party music software. And this is a key point because Glover doesn't make any sound on its own. It lets you take the movements and gestures you make with your gloves and connect them to whatever software you're using. So how does it do this? So what we do is we compose a gesture inside of Glover and then we connect that to what we call musical messages. And what I mean by that is either MIDI or there's also another option which is OSC. And if you don't know what OSC is, don't worry, but for some people that's useful. So really we're connected to any piece of music software or hardware that can understand MIDI messages. So I've got Ableton Live running in the background here, and you don't have to use Ableton Live. It's a popular choice, but there are many other pieces of software which can receive MIDI or OSC messages, so really it's whatever works for you. So let's dive in. So this is Glover. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go on this little devices section here and I'm going to add a left glove. And this red button here is the connect button. I'm going to hit that and you see I've already got my glove. It's appearing here. I'm going to hit that and I'm going to hit connect. And now it's green to show it's connected. We've got a whole separate video on how to connect your gloves. So if you do want to learn more about how to connect your gloves, then we'll link that video in the description. So in this glove panel here, you can see we've got a few things. We've got the name of the glove, and I'm going to name that Adam left, which is useful later to be able to see which device is which. I've got the on and off button for the gloves. This shows me if the glove is connected. I've got the battery level for the gloves, and this is some indication of the wireless connectivity strength. So I'm just going to quickly add my right glove. I'm going to get that connected here. I'm going to rename that one to Adam Right. So now we're going to have a look at the glove inspector. So to do that, I'm going to click on the glove here, and you'll see that down here we see this much more detailed panel appears, and I can sort of see much more detail about what's happening with the gloves. So the first thing we've got here is the glove panel. So you can see as I bend my fingers like this, you can see the values moving here on the glove. So this is sort of an indication of the flex sensors that are inside of my glove measuring the bend of my fingers. There's a few other things here. This button will trigger the vibration motor. This button, if I press the button on my glove here, that will then light up the glove here in the panel, so you can see that that's working. And this here is a calibrate button, which lets me calibrate the flex sensors. So this is not necessarily really, but it lets you do increase the range of the flex sensors of the glove. So to do that, I just click on this button and then I open and close my hand just for about, say, 10 seconds or something like that. And then when I'm done, I hit OK. And now you can see here, there's a much sort of wider range of movement on the flex sensors of the glove. So in the orientation panel, you can see here that I've got all the different sort of orientation movements of the glove. So I've got the first one here, which is the roll of my wrist. And then I've got this one, which is pitch. So this is like this. Now, just to be clear, this is the angle of your hand. It's not the height. So if I move my hand up and down like this makes no difference. And then, so yeah, it's this angle. And then the last one is yaw, which is sort of this angle. So you'll notice also that this is not staying centered. When I point my hand forward, this is not in the center here. So this button here is the set forwards button. If I hit that, now this is forwards, and you can see as I move to the left and move to the right, it will always then come back to the center here. Later on, we're going to look at a way that we can programmatically do this, so we can actually set forwards in the middle of a performance if we maybe wanted to change where forwards was even in the middle of a show. In the drum hit section, we've got there's sort of different drum hits. So we've got this one, which is sort of a drum hit down like this. Just imagine you're holding like a drumstick. We've got this one, which we call bounce, which is sort of like that. And then we've got a wrist flick, which is this one. And then finally, we've got the posture panel. So the posture panel is a way for you to take the flex sensor data in your gloves, which we already saw here, and to then basically recognize different postures, let's say like a fist or an open hand or a one finger point or pinch. And this is really powerful. It lets us select different movements and gestures inside the software. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to train Glover to recognize my postures. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a fist like this, and I'm just going to click now where it says fist, and it now will save one example of that posture. Now I make an open hand, I save one example of that, and I'm going to make a one finger point, and I'm going to save that one. So now you'll see this orange button has popped up, which is allowing me to save it. So if I now hit that, it's now will save and now recognize those postures. And so if I now make a fist, you'll see as I go fist, open hand, one finger point, that it's now recognizing those postures as I am using the software. So what is really important is that we get this posture recognition right, because this is going to give us the foundational layer upon which we're going to do all of our gesture recognition. So what is to get it right, we actually want to do a bit more robust posture training. So what we actually recommend is that you do 10 examples of each posture. So what I'm going to do is make a fist again, and I'm just going to take the number of examples up to 10. So I'm going to keep clicking this, and I'm going to add some open hands to get that to 10, and then some one finger point as well. And I hit save, and now it's got 10 examples of each one. The only other thing I'd say is if you're making a posture like one finger point, like decide like is your thumb out, is it in, and I would just make the postures very consistently. So don't make them in a way that varies a lot, or if you do make it in a way that varies a lot, show all those variations to the posture training system. So I'd like to show you as well that you can add your own postures. So here in where it says posture 5, I'm going to go here and I'm going to click Control, and I'm going to do rename posture, and I'm going to call that one pinch. So what I can do is now make a posture, and this could be anything you wanted, right? I'm choosing pinch, but you could do rock sign or whatever you wanted. So I'm going to choose pinch, and I'm going to now show 10 examples of pinch. So now if I do fist, open hand, one finger point, and pinch, you can see Glover's now recognizing those postures in the software. If I control click, I can also remove all posture examples of this type. And I just wanted to show you one last thing. If you hold down shift, that's just a shortcut to renaming the posture. Also in the glove inspector, we have some buttons on the toolbar here. So this button allows you to launch a connectivity window, which will give you sort of an idea of how the glove is doing in terms of connectivity and Wi-Fi connectivity. So this could be used in a performance if you needed to sort of diagnose any connection issues. This button is a glove health check, which you can do to sort of create a report to show what's going on with your glove. Does it have any issues with the sensors? And you can send that to us at the team and we can take a look at it. And this button here allows you to actually put the glove to sleep. This is useful if you're going to send the glove via transport, or if you don't want it to turn on during transport. It basically stops it from turning on again, and then you can only turn it on again by connecting it by USB and turning on the power. I'm going to now quickly set up my right glove. I'm not going to do that on the video, but then I'll get that set up and then we'll move on to the next section. Making mappings is the way that you can connect the movements and gestures that you make with your gloves to musical messages that can then control something in your music software. And so this is basically how we're going to make music with the gloves. So I have now set up my right glove here, and I've also added on both gloves just one more posture. I've added a puppet hand, so this is sort of the thumb and other fingers all touching. We call that puppet hand. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have a look. So we've got our two gloves, and if you have a look down here at this device input section, this is where we can actually look at all the different inputs that each glove has. So if I click on the left glove here, for example, you can see there's an orientation set of inputs. That's the sort of pitch, the roll, and the yaw of each glove. These are the sort of movements. We've got then the posture set. So this is the different postures that I've trained. So I've got my fist and open hand and puppet hand, one finger point, other things like that. In direction, this is the direction of each glove. So this is up, forwards, left, right, down, backwards. Then you've got segments. These are a lot like directions, but just with all of the places in between the two, if that makes sense. So instead of just up and forwards, we might have up halfway between them and forwards as well. So it's sort of a more detailed version of the directions. The drum hits, we've got drum hits. Again, this is like, imagine holding a drumstick and hitting a drum. You've got wrist flick, which is like this, and bounce, which is like this, like bouncing a ball. For the button, we've got button press for when the button goes down or when it's released. That's button down and up. Flex is the individual movements of every single flex sensor on the glove. So we've got, there's 8 flex sensors inside your glove, and so you can get the thumb, the pinky, or what we call distal and proximal. So distal is the ones furthest from you, so the ones furthest along these knuckles here, and then proximal sensors are the ones on the ones nearest to you, so that's these knuckles here. So we've got those 8 readings of your hand and of the bend of your fingers there. We've then got palm tilt, so this is like, is my palm flat? Is it this way? Is it that way? Or is it like this? So these are the inputs that we have to work with. There are ingredients that we're working with here inside of Glover. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add what's called a mapping input. So if I go up to this button here and I click on that, I get an empty mapping input that appears here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my left glove and I'm going to click on orientation, and I'm going to take roll here, and I'm just going to drag that to this box here, and you can see this sort of line appears where we can now see the sort of space where we can drop it. So when I drop it there, you can now see here there's like a signal coming in, and so as I move my hand like this around, you can see that signal responding. So what I can do, I can also set the range of this signal. So if I move my hand to there, I can now go here and press the set minimum button. That's going to be my minimum position. And if I go here, this is going to be my maximum position. So now I've sort of rescaled this range from what it used to be to this one that's much more closely reflects the gesture I'm making. For the output, you can see that I'm actually going from 0 to 127. And that's the 127 is really the maximum value for a MIDI control change message. And don't worry too much about that now, but I just wanted to explain why that sort of rather strange looking number is there. So we now have some movement data from our glove, but what we want to do is to send this to some music software using MIDI. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go up here and press this button, which is going to add a mapping output. So I've got my mapping output here, and I'm going to drag in a MIDI message. So if you aren't sure about MIDI messages, then we've made a whole separate video where you can sort of get a high-level overview on what MIDI is and roughly a sort of tour of the different MIDI messages that you might come across when you're using Glover, and we'll link that down in the description. So having a look here at this MIDI message, you can see a few things. So the output port is Glover, so it's coming from Glover's MIDI port. This is Glover basically pretending to be a MIDI device. It says message type control change. There are other types of MIDI messages, but we're going to look at a control change message now. This is kind of like turning a knob. It's on channel 1, and it's CC number 20. So if you think that basically, think of each controller message as sort of a pipe into your music software, and this is number 20 on channel 1. And as a last step, we're just going to connect these two together, the mapping input to the mapping output, and now this roll gesture that I'm making here is now sending out of Glover as a MIDI message. So now we can go into Ableton Live and we can receive it. Before we do anything else, the first time we use Ableton Live for making music with Glover, we need to just change a couple of settings. This is a one-time only task. So if we go into the settings, so we go to Live and then Settings, and we go to the Link, Tempo and MIDI section, what we need to do is, where it says Glover down the bottom here, we need to make sure that Remote is on. So probably when you first have it set up, for the inputs, that will not be on. You need to set that to on. The other thing we need to do is look at takeover mode. So takeover mode should be set to none. Now, you might have another reason you want to set takeover mode to something else, in which case that's great, but we recommend that you set it to none to begin with. So with that done, we are now ready to go and make a mapping and control some music. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a drum loop that I've got here in Ableton Live and I'm going to drag that to a new channel. I'm just going to pipe that into my video audio here. You don't need to do that, just don't worry about that. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're just going to have a quick listen to this drum loop and see what it sounds like. So yeah, it's a sort of, pretty cool drum loop here in Ableton Live. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to find an audio effect and I'm going to add that to our drum loop because we want to control the effect on the drum loop itself. So I'm going to go to audio effects here. I'm going to search for shifter and I'm going to drag that onto my drum loop channel here. So this is a way for us to control the pitch of the drum loop as it plays back, and we're going to control this coarse parameter. I'm just going to play the drum loop and you're going to be able to sort of hear the effect as I move the mouse, and that just gives you an idea of what this should sound like. So yeah, so it's a sort of way of controlling the pitch of this drum loop. But what we need to do is to map to this coarse parameter here. So if we go back to Glover, remember we've got our the roll of our wrist here, and that's sending out as a control change message number 20 on channel 1. So channel 1, controller number 20. So if we go back here and you see this coarse parameter, if I click on it, you see this little box appears around it, and that if I click on other ones, you see the box appears there instead. So I'll click on the coarse one again, and then I'm going to go up here, I'm going to click on this MIDI message up the top, and the MIDI message is going to put us into, so the MIDI button is going to put us into MIDI mapping mode. So now everything's gone blue. I'm going to click on this coarse parameter and you'll see, because I'm sending the roll of my wrist like this all the time, this is going to get picked up immediately. So as I click on this, you'll see it says channel 1, message 20, and that's picked that up. And if I come up to the top right here and I click on the MIDI button again, I will now come out of MIDI mapping mode, and you can see now I am now controlling this parameter as I roll my wrist around. So let's play the loop and see what this sounds like. So yeah, that's pretty cool. But one of the things that's not great about it is that I'm controlling this effect all the time. So like I'm controlling it, and then when I get here, there's no way for me to sort of select it and then go into that effect and then let go again. I'm just constantly controlling it. So we want to add a sort of selector control to this on top of it. So let's go back into Glover. In here with our roll parameter, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my left glove and I'm going to click on the posture set, and I'm going to choose puppet hand. Puppet hand is this gesture here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag the puppet hand onto the same box where it says roll. So it's now a joint combination of roll and puppet hand. So if I do this movement, nothing happens, but when I make the puppet hand, you can see now that we've got some signal coming in again. So I let go and the signal stops. So this now is a way for us to move in, select something, and then change it and let go again. So let's go back into Ableton Live again, and we're going to play our loop, and we're going to make this change. So when it starts, nothing happens, and when I can make the change like this, and it goes up, and I can let go again. But you hear at the end that when I let go, it sort of got stuck at the end and didn't reset to how it was in the beginning. And what I really want is that when I let go, it goes back to that neutral position. So let's have a look here at how we can do that. So we go back to Glover. We've got our parameter, but what we want to do really is we have a look at this coarse parameter in Ableton Live. We want this thing which goes from minus 24 semitones to plus 24 semitones to go back to 0 semitones when we let go. So if that's going minus 24 to plus 24, we look at our MIDI message, which is going from 0 to 127. So we need to put a reset message that is halfway between these values. So I've got this reset on release section here. So if I turn reset on release on, and then the value I want it to reset to is 64. That's halfway between 0 and 127. So now, whenever I make this change and let go, it's going to reset to halfway between the two, and the parameter will go back to 0. So what I'm going to do is pitch it all the way down, and then I'll let go, and you'll see it pitches back to normal. So here we go. So, and I can let go, and it just goes back to normal like that. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So now we have control of an effect on the drum loop, and we can control the pitch, and we can know how to reset it and go into that and really select it. So now we're going to add another effect on our drum loop, and we're going to control that with the right glove, and that's going to be the beat repeat effect in Ableton Live. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to search for beat repeat in the effects, and I'm going to drag that just before the frequency shifter on the drum loop channel. So I'm going to take the chance here, I'm going to bring that down to 0, and I'm going to put it onto an insert. So what we want to do is we want to control this repeat button. So this is going to allow us to sort of grab sections of the audio and sort of repeat them over and over again. So that's the button we want to map to. So let's go into Glover here, and we're going to go, and I'm going to take the posture on my right glove here, and I'm going to drag that into here. So I could have just made a new mapping and dragged it in, but I can drag it directly here into the sort of mapping area. So now I've got this fist, and if you can see this little light here, if I make a fist, that little light sort of lights up, I guess. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add an output, another MIDI message. I'm going to drag that in here, and you'll see that's now said channel 1, controller 21, and I'm just going to connect them together. So it did automatically choose another MIDI message, number 21, rather than 20. And Glover tries to do this. It tries to pick the next number that's free, but it doesn't always work, but it has a go. Okay, so if we now come back here into Ableton Live, it's this repeat button that we want to map to. So I've got the MIDI mapping button, and I can go into MIDI mapping, but we have a problem. So the problem is that we've now got two messages sending at the same time. So how can Ableton Live know which one that it needs to listen to for the mapping? So what we need to do, we need to actually solo one of them. So I'm going to solo the new one, and you see that solo goes on there, and the solo button here comes on to show that something is soloed. So here I'm going to go back into Ableton Live, and now I can go to MIDI mapping mode. And what I'm not actually going to use the button here. I'm going to do Command M as a shortcut, and we go here and I click on the repeat button, and now when I make a fist, it's picked up that channel 1 message 21. So I'm going to do Command M to come out of MIDI mapping mode, and I've now got control over this parameter. So I'm going to unsolo it back here. It's really important you remember to unsolo things, because otherwise you get stuck only controlling the last thing. So hit unsolo here, or I could hit this button just to unsolo everything that's soloed. So what I'm going to do now is, without the audio, I'm just going to show you, if I make a fist, the repeat button comes on, but it doesn't go off again. So we get stuck in it forever. So I'll turn it off with the mouse. We need a way to be able to turn it on and then turn it off again. So let's have a look here. So if you look at this event here from the fist, we're in trigger mode. So again, if I make a fist, you can see this trigger happen. So, but if I hit this button trigger, we see another mode, which is toggle, and you actually see that there's now two outputs here. So now if I connect the second output, the first output up the top is sending 127, and the second one is sending 0. So now if I make a fist, you'll see here it goes, the first one sends, and I make a fist a second time, the second one sends. So it just toggles back and forth between those two options. But this is not actually what we want. We want the gate mode. So the gate mode will now send the top one when I make a fist, and when I stop making a fist, it will send the bottom one. So now it turns the beat repeat on when I make a fist and off when I let go. So if let's go back into Ableton Live, we can have a look, and I make a fist and it goes on, and I let go and it goes off again. So now let's try that with the drum loop and see what this sounds like. And I still have this as well. So yeah, so that's pretty cool. So now we have a way to have two separate effects on our drum loop, and we are able to select the effect and drop out of it as well at the same time. Okay, so just to wrap up in this section, there's just a few things that we could do here. So I can actually go and click on these two outputs, and I can give them a name. So this first one was our sort of shifter effect. And then the second one here was our beat repeats. So this just helps me to see exactly what the things are controlling, and it's sort of much easier. And then we, if we wanted to, we could change these colors here. So we can control, maybe we could select these two and say, well, they're going to be sort of this pink color, and maybe we'll keep these other two as blue. Okay? But you can just set the colors as you wish, so you can kind of color code things so you can have them fit your mental model of the music you're making. And finally, I just want to introduce the idea of a scene. So a scene is a collection of mappings. And we've got this collection of mappings here, which is basically our sort of drum loop processing. So up here, I'm going to name my scene drum loop. And that's now a collection of mappings that we're calling our drum loop scene. Now that we've made our first drum loop scene, we're going to go and make a second scene and have a look at some of the other functionality that Glover has to offer. So if we come over here, we've got this sort of scenes list, if you have a look here. And we've got this plus button here, and we can actually create a second scene. And when I click on the second scene, scene 2, you'll see that we've now got a completely empty scene here. Now if I go back to the drum loop scene, everything's still there, but we can now just sort of switch between these two with the mouse. Now this is quite an important point. Only the active scene is sending messages at any one time. So when we're in the drum loop scene, the drum loop stuff is sending, and when we go to scene 2, then the drum loop scene is not sending, and whatever is in scene 2 will be sending. So that's an important point to remember. So now in scene 2, we're going to go up and add an instrument. So the instruments we have are the note matrix and the chord machine, and we're going to start with the chord machine here. So if the chord machine is basically a way for us to play chords, i.e. send MIDI notes out of Glover, but without sending every single individual MIDI note programmed one by one. So we can use this sort of nice keyboard interface, and we have up to 12 chords that we can map together. So first of all, I'm going to set up a sound in Ableton Live. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to search on the instruments. I'm going to search for analog piano. And I'm going to drag that to a channel here, and I'm just going to pipe that into my video audio. So on the analog piano, so that's now receiving our MIDI. So here in the chord machine, I'm going to go here and I'm going to click on chord 1, and I'm going to program a chord. So I've programmed like a C minor chord there. And I'm going to click on chord 2, and I'm going to program another chord. So now what we can do is we can actually map gestures to these chords. So if I click on the first one, I'm going to go in, I'm going to take my left glove, and I'm going to take the direction up, and I'm going to put that there. So now whenever I point up, it will play that chord. What I'm also going to do, I'm going to add a posture to that as well. So I'm going to add fist. So now I put my hand up and I make a fist, and that plays the chord. And now on my second chord here for the D major, I'm going to set it to be forwards, and also with a fist. So now I've got one chord up and one chord forwards. And these are my two chords. And it's really as simple as that. Like the chord machine lets you play up to 12 different chords, and you can program in whichever sort of gestures you want to trigger them. And then you're able to play a set of chords and actually really kind of maybe write a song or whatever it is you want to do. A couple of things to be aware of. So for each chord, you have a velocity control, and then you also have note spread. So for the note spread, I'll just show you here. If I make the note spread exaggerated, so it's now, it will play it in a sort of more arpeggiated way, so or a bit more of a strummed way. So with each of these parameters, you can also click on this main panel here, and you can go to the velocity and map to the velocity here with some sort of a movement control, or map to the note spread. I won't go into the details here. This is mainly very similar to the control of a parameter that we saw earlier. So now we're going to look at another instrument, and that's called the note matrix. And the note matrix is a way for us to play melodies. So to add a note matrix to Glover, we go up here and we click here on the instrument button and then onto note matrix. So the note matrix at first glance looks similar to the Chord Machine, but it has a bit of a different job. So what we're going to do first, we're going to add another sound. So go into here into Ableton Live, and I'm going to choose this time this sort of marimba sound. And this immediately, I'm going to just sort of pipe this into my... So this immediately presents us with a bit of a problem, because we now have two instruments both listening to MIDI on all channels. So how, when we send MIDI from Glover, are we going to be able to tell them apart? Because if you actually look here, the Chord Machine and the note matrix both have a MIDI channel, and what we want to do is to separate them. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my Chord Machine and I'm going to put that on channel, let's say 7, and my note matrix, I'm going to put that on channel 8. And so if I now go into Glover, I'm going to take the first sound, I'm going to say it comes from Glover on channel 7, and the marimba, I'm going to say comes from Glover on channel 8. And now we've got those two things separated in the software. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go in here and we can now add a melody, so I can actually put in some notes. So let's say, so I've put in all of these notes, and what I can do is now map on my left hand, for example, let's say the pitch angle. So this is going to be, you can see now as I move, if I move my hand up and down, I'm able to play these different notes. And I actually have 12 different melodies here, a bit like the chords, so they can be played in different ways. So it could be that I maybe add a fist, so that only with a fist, I've already got my Chord Machine here. I'm going to switch that one off. This is actually a good lesson actually about, you need to be careful of what you're separating in terms of what's happening at the same time. So now I'm able to play this, and then I have an open hand, it doesn't do anything. But you can then add sort of 12 of these different melodies. You can also choose the creation time. So this is the order in the notes are played. So it could be that they're played in creation time first to last, or last to first, or pitch ascending or descending. So you can actually create quite more sophisticated melodies, and then you can also control the note length and the velocity. And just as with the Chord Machine, those things are also mappable from the main panel as individual parameters of the note matrix. So this just gives us a way to create some melodies and to be able to play different things when we connect our gloves. So now what we have is a Chord Machine for chords and a note matrix for melodies. And this is in our second scene, so maybe we'll just call this scene chords and melodies. So we've now created two scenes, our drum loops and our chords and melodies. But what would be great is if we could switch between them, not using the mouse, but using the gloves themselves. So that's exactly what we're going to do next. So how do we switch between these scenes? So to one of the scenes, I'm going to add a left glove wrist flick. So I go my left glove, drum hits, and then I'm going to drag wrist flick into this scene. And then I'm going to create an output here, and I'm going to drag a scene switch. And you can see here it's got the scene that I want to go to. So I want to go to the drum loop scene, because I'm currently in the chords and melodies scene. So if I now connect them together, you'll see that when I now flick my wrist, I now go into the drum loop scene. And now I'm going to add another mapping which will do the same thing, but map it back again. So I'm going to add my right glove, wrist flick, and I'm going to add a scene switch and an instruction to go to the chords and melodies scene. So I'm going to now connect those together. When I do the right glove, we go to the chords and melodies scene, and when we do the left glove, we go back to the drum loop scene. So this gives us an ability to switch between the different bits of musical control that we have using the gloves themselves, which is really great. However, what would be great is if it's not only that I can switch between these scenes with the gloves, but if I could get some feedback to tell me which of the scenes I'm in. So I actually have an LED and a button on these Gloves. So that's going to let me see which scene I'm in, if we could actually set the color to appear when we change the scene. So that's what we're going to do next. So in my drum loop scene, I'm going to add an empty mapping output. And in there, I'm going to then drag in a device feedback output in there. And I'm going to choose my left glove. And I'm going to choose LED color solid. So here I can choose the LED color that I want. I'm going to drag it. So in this space, you want to sort of drag it to the top right and then up and down to select colors. Or you can go to the top left if you want a sort of grayscale, white to black type of thing. Or you can go anywhere in between. But I recommend going to the top right. I'm going to choose a sort of green LED here. And then I'm just going to add another device feedback and do the same for my right glove. So choose LED color solid, and I'm going to also set that to green. So the question is, so I might just call this green LEDs here. So the question is, how do we get this to happen when I change scene? So what we have to do is, you see this button initializer here, that when I turn that on, you see this little icon here. Now, so what that's doing is that's telling us that this is going to be sent as a message as soon as we arrive in the scene. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the chords and melodies scene, and I'm going to click there, and you'll see now when I do my left wrist flick, both the LEDs on my gloves are going to go green, and we switched into the drum loop scene. But now we want the same thing, so that when we do the right one, we go into the other scene and we get a different color LED. So in the chords and melodies scene, I'm just going to actually copy paste these green LEDs, and I'm going to paste them here. And then I'm just going to change the colors here to be, let's say, yellow. Maybe pick something different. Let's pick pink. So pink. They don't have to be the same color, but that's up to you. So call this pink LEDs. And again, remember, because this is an initializer, this is going to send as soon as we arrive in the scene. So now, if I go to the drum loop scene, when I do the right wrist flick, I get pink LEDs because I'm in the chords and melody scene, and if I do the left wrist flick, I get green LEDs, and we go back to the drum loop scene. And so this is the sort of scene switching idea, and I don't have to look at the computer to know which scene I'm in. I can just switch between the scenes and do that in the comfort, and use the LEDs to know that it has actually happened in the software. One more thing to point out. So we've got the initializer here, but we also have this exit message button, and an exit message is the opposite of an initializer. So that's a message that gets sent when we leave a scene. So you might use initializers to set things up and turn things on when you arrive in a scene, and exit messages to turn them off again when you leave again. So that way you can create some context. Maybe you want to turn channels on or turn effects on, and you can set up these kind of messages as well as just LED colors, just to create the context for your performance when you arrive and leave a scene. Previously, I told you that only the active scene sends messages at any one time. And this is true in the basic case, but there are ways for us to create exceptions to this rule, and that can be useful in a few ways, as we're going to see. So, having a look here, so when I'm in the drum loop scene, only the drum loop stuff happens, and when I'm in the chords and melodies scene, only the chords and melodies stuff happens. But what we can do is, if I, in the scene list, control click or right click here, I can set a scene to be always active. So now if I go to the drum loop scene, the chords and melodies stuff would also be active as well as the drum loop stuff. So you can create things to happen in parallel. And we're going to see a really, really good example of why this is useful a bit later. So as well as making a scene always active, we can add, if I add a couple of other scenes, sometimes we might want an exception. So we might want that, yes, one scene is always active, but we want another scene to override even that case, so it's an exclusive scene. So scene 3 and drum loop, chords and melodies is always active, so it's always on. But if we go to scene 4 is like a hard rule, always active, nothing else is sending through. So you have these two tools that you can use to sort of create parallelism in your glove performances and structure things in that way, so that you can have two things happening at once, or really force that nothing else can happen at this time. So to give a good example of why this might be useful, so I'm going to just make these back into normal scenes. So we might have a situation where we want something to be always accessible to us. So I talked earlier about the set forwards. So for each of your gloves, you've got this yaw direction, and sometimes we need to set forwards to sort of say that's forwards, and that's setting where forwards is for the glove. And I'm doing this, but it's very annoying to do this by hand and manually. So what we want to do is A, to do this programmatically, and B, to have it always available to us. So what I'm going to do is in scene 3, which I'm going to call set forwards, I'm going to create a mapping output, and I'm going to choose device feedback, my left glove, and set forwards. And I'm also going to add another device feedback. I'm going to choose my right glove and set forwards again. So this will set both gloves forwards, right? Set forwards. Okay, so now we've got set forwards for both gloves there, okay? So what I'm going to do now on the left glove button, so this is the button here, I press with my thumb, I'm going to choose the button down. So whenever I'm going to connect them together. So now whenever I press the button, so let's go back into this view here. So whenever I press the button, it will set forward. So if I move my hands this way, so pay attention to here. So if I move my hands this way and point in a different direction and press the button, you saw it recenter. And if I come back here, it recenters. So I can now use this way to reset where center is. So if you're on stage and you want to turn to 90 degrees, you can reset where center is and where forwards is, and center your performance to a different context. So, but how do we now make this always active? Because if we go to drum loop scene, at the moment, the set forward scene is a normal scene, so our set forwards doesn't work. But if we go to set forwards and we make it always active, then in either my drum loop scene or my melody scene, I can always set forwards using the button. And so that's a way that we can use always active to create functionalities that are going to be really supportive of the rest of our performance. I'm going to add one last little embellishment to this, which is just in the set forwards area. I'm going to add a bit more device feedback, and that's because what we can do, we can add some vibration motor feedback. So this is just nice. I get a sort of pulse. So I'm going to have a triple click happen on my left glove and the same on my right glove. And this just means that when it happens, I just get just sort of a bit of feedback to know that that's happened for sure. So when I press the button, I get this little triple click on the gloves and I can feel that it's happened. I don't need to look at the software. We've already seen that a collection of mappings is called a scene, but we also have a name for a collection of scenes, and that's called an arrangement. An arrangement, loosely in the original conception, was to closely map to the idea of a song. So you might have a single arrangement per song. You don't have to use it that way, but that's roughly where the idea came from. So looking here in Glover, you can see we've got 3 scenes here, and up the top here it says new arrangement. So I'm just going to actually might name this might be my first song. And you can see my first song has got these 3 scenes in it. But what I can do is hit this plus button here and I can create a new arrangement. This might be my second song. And here, when I change to my second song, there's no scenes there. I can also go back now and change to the first one. And you can see they're all still there. And in the second one, I can just add a whole bunch of new scenes. And this way, we can now sort of start to structure even more beyond an individual scene level to sort of the song level. And you can really build a whole sort of show inside of Glover, and you don't need to create separate projects or anything like that. So this is a way for you to kind of structure your entire performances in one project in Glover. So there's another little bit of functionality here. So what you might have is you might have a single Ableton Live project per arrangement, and what you can do is you can go here to see this little paperclip icon, and here you have associated files. And I'm not going to do this now, because if I do this change, it will actually close my Ableton Live project and my audio will stop recording. But what you do is you drag a project in here, or it doesn't have to be a project, it could be a PDF file, it can be anything that your computer can open. It could be your lyrics, whatever it is. And then once you've got your files in here, you tick auto load files in perform mode. Okay, so when that's on, what happens is that when you have perform mode, which is this little button up here, this sort of dancing person. When perform mode is on, then whenever we switch into an arrangement, you won't see it happen now because I haven't attached the file, but whenever you switch into the arrangement, that will load the associated project. And that means that then basically you can actually play your set, and then maybe you go to your second song in Glover, and Glover will automatically load, let's say, the second Ableton project. And that way you just have these things load in sequence. So why even bother with this performance mode button? Well, it might be that actually while you're editing in Glover, you don't want your big Ableton Live projects with all of their audio samples and everything loading up while you're trying to do your work. So maybe you want to switch this off, do some editing in your project, moving around or whatever, and then when you're ready to perform, you go into performance mode, and then the projects will load in sequence when you switch arrangement. So just a couple of last things here. So we're going to look up, I just want to show you that we have a presets section here with lots and lots of presets. So if you wanted to play with those, that's a quick way to get started at, with some ideas. But I wanted to show you how to make your own stuff first, because that's the most important thing. And we also have this feedback button. So if you click that, that will take you to a little place where you can send a message direct to us. We love your feedback, criticisms, anything you've got, just tell us. And we'll be happy to help, or you can get in touch with us at support@mimugloves.com. So thank you for making it to the end of this video. I hope it's been helpful in helping you get started with the MiMU Gloves. And if you've got any questions at all, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. We'll be really happy to help you. We also have a Discord server where we have loads of other artists who are sort of sharing their work and asking questions, and it's a really good place to get some feedback. And we even have some community calls sometimes where we do some tutorials, or some artists share their work, or it's a Q&A. So yeah, really recommend that you join the Discord, and again the link will be in the description. So yeah, best of luck making music with the gloves, and I will see you in the next video.